So where is this all headed? I think most of you know we've got the masks fully engaged for the most part. We're going to have Operation Second Wave coming soon with contact tracing in place, quarantines. They're building isolation centers all over the place. Is it going to take people having their children taken away from their homes and put into concentration camps for people to stand up? It might come to that. So what I want to do quickly here is to actually have a little bit of an education system, and I know Colin wants me to do this quick, but I want to break down what is driving all of this fear campaign and the number of cases and all of these draconian measures is the testing and the test results. And in Canada, we are using the nasal swabs and the RT-PCR test. So I want to break that down for you quickly, how fraudulent this testing is. So just quickly, there's three types of testing. There's an antigen testing. I don't know too much about that. That measures for viral proteins. There's the antibody testing, which measures antibodies to, but that's very confusing because it can confuse the results with a number of other viruses. But I want to focus on the RT-PCR test. So the actual PCR procedure was developed in the 80s by Kerry Mullis. He won a Nobel Prize for this work and a Japan Prize. It's a very prestigious scientific award. And it is an extremely important achievement in the 20th century. It's regarded as one of the most outstanding achievements in science in the last century. And it is designed to just replicate DNA. It is just used for medical research, forensics, all kinds of medical type studies, where they can blow up and replicate DNA so they have enough of it they can study it. It was never designed as a test. Kerry Mullis said this should never be used as a diagnostic test. And I'm going to tell you why that is. So first of all, they haven't isolated and purified the virus. And to do that, this is the gold standard of the test. This is how they need to test the tests to see how accurate they are. They've never done it. So there's no way to know how accurate these tests are, but I want to just illustrate what goes on in these tests. So the first part is they do the nasal swab. They'll get some RNA, maybe, right? And that RNA could come from all kinds of different sources, other viruses, other bacteria, other human cells. There's no way to discern that this RNA comes from a coronavirus. They don't do that. It's not in the test procedure. So right off the bat, you've got...
Guys, can you lower your voice while this man's speaking?
Yes. So right off the bat, you've got a big confusion. This can be triggered by all these other viruses and all these other contaminants. So we're not off to a good start, right? But it gets better. So the first part of this test procedure is reverse transcription, and this is a way to change RNA into DNA. And the way the amplification process only works with DNA, so you have to change it in RNA. There's wide variance in how efficient that transfer process is. So you might get like 10%, you might get 100%, 50%, and this has huge results in whether the test becomes negative or positive, right? Whether you're starting with one strand of RNA or you're starting with 100, right? So there's another step in the process that errors can be introduced. So then each testing lab may have different machinery, equipment. There's all kinds of different testing equipment, different manufacturers. Each of them gives different results. There's no standardization on this testing in terms of the equipment that they're using. So there's another one. Now, what happens with the amplification process, the polymerase chain reaction, it's called? Okay, all right, I'm getting to it. All right, how to summarize this? So basically, the way they determine whether a test is positive or negative is how many cycles it takes for this light to show up to make it positive, right? And those numbers, those cycle numbers, are arbitrary. They're different across countries, different across different laboratories. So I've got a lot more to talk about here, but I'm kind of in a rush. So that's another source of error, is that arbitrary cycle number that they determine is the cutoff for positive and negative. Even with the same lab, same equipment, same patients, there's studies that they've the results have flipped back from positive to negative, negative to positive, and there's no consistency here. So that's another source of error. So this test don't tell you how much the virus is in your body. When you think about it, you get some virus. Most of our immune system is very complex, and we fight it off in a number of different ways. So to get sick, you have to have a lot of this virus introduced in your body, and these tests don't tell you that at all. So, and there's no satisfaction of the Koch's postulates which prove this virus causes disease.